Good morning to all of you. So today
Good
we have
morning, sir.
good morning. We have to start the new topic to you. That is what is known as the biodiversity. So this is a very interesting topic for anyone, even not only the students of biology, even for a common man also. The biodiversity is a very important topic. Not only important, it is relevant and vital for our very survival on this earth. So that's why this biodiversity is a very interesting topic also. Uh, Now, before starting the class, I would like to show you one or two slides where some of the prominent personalities they have given their own idea with respect to the biodiversity in general. See, what Mahatma Gandhi has said is Earth has enough for everyone's need, but not everyone's greed. This is a very interesting thing uh, that it has been uh, said by Mahatma Gandhi. Next slide I will show you. Uh, this is another very interesting slide. All of us need three basic things. Either we may be human beings or any animal. We need basically three things for our very survival. One is food, second one is shelter, and third one is the mate. So here first, if we look into the first thing, the nutritional need. uh, for the entire uh, growing global population. All of you know the population is growing at an alarming rate, and for this, uh, we need the food, that is the nutrition. I have given some of the facts here. 42% of world population depends on agriculture because agriculture is the only way from where we will be able to get our food. Um, then in our food, 23% of our calorific requirement, the energy requirement, comes from rice. At the same time, though 42% of world population depends on agriculture, 850 million people face are either malnourished or underfed. They are not getting enough nutritious food. I am not talking about the volume of the food, but the quality of the food, nutritious food. Then the uh, mostly 80% of dietary energy for all living beings, human beings, comes from wheat, rice, and potato, which is providing around 60% of the nutrient requirement of the 60% of the people. And uh, in spite of that, up to 2 billion people are facing the iron deficiency or vitamin deficiency. All these things are there. You may wonder why I am talking all these statistics. That you will find later when I talk here only. So now, see, I have told you for the very survival of any individual, we require three things: food, shelter, and mate. Now, just imagine all these three things comes from where? Where we get all these things? Whether we can manufacture that in the industries, or whether we will be able to produce that by chemical synthesis, certainly it is not. So for this, all these three things are the contribution from the nature. Either it may be food or shelter, including the mate. We cannot prepare that in the laboratory, or we cannot prepare in the industries. That means this is coming naturally. As a result, all these things are nothing but the natural resources. And these natural resources are the contribution from what I talk the biodiversity. What is biodiversity then? Look around. Whatever the living beings that you see, that is a part of the biodiversity. Any living being, either it may be plant, animal, microorganisms, starting from virus to mammals, or it can be from protozoa to mammals, whatever you call, that is being contributed by the nature, and that is nothing but the biodiversity. Everything natural. Now the question is, where where all we find this biodiversity? There are three questions. Where all we find this biodiversity, whether this biodiversity is distributed uniformly. And the third question is where we can see this maximum. If you try to find answer for these questions, where you find biodiversity? Everywhere. Wherever the life forms are there, there you can see the biodiversity. Except a sterile area on this earth. Everywhere you can see the biodiversity. Even in the air or in the deepest part of the sea, you can see the biodiversity. Then, okay, when it is found everywhere, whether it is uniformly distributed, the answer is no. Certainly, the biodiversity is not uniformly distributed. There are certain places which are rich in biodiversity, certain places which are poor in biodiversity. What does it mean? If we take our political map of the world, there you can see certain countries are very rich in biodiversity. Other countries are poor in biodiversity, especially the tropical countries. In and around the equator, we have maximum biodiversity. As you move away from the equator, the intensity of this biodiversity also decreases. So that means biodiversity is found everywhere, but it is not equitably distributed. Then, to find the question where all you see the maximum diversity, that is in and around tropics, in the tropical countries or in and around the equator. Now, what is the literary meaning of biodiversity? Biodiversity is made out of two words. One is the bio and second one is the diversity. What is this? Bio means what? Life. Diversity means variety and variability. Variety and variability, we talk it as diversity. So that means biodiversity refers to variety and variability of the life. This is very interesting. What is this variety and variability? Okay, bio means life. Okay, that refers to variety and variability in the life. We call it as biodiversity. I will ask you one question. How many fruits you can list? The fruits which you can eat. Probably a common student will list something 15 to 20 fruits, starting from mango, jackfruit, apple, orange, kiwi, or so many other fruits. 15 to 20 fruits easily you can list. What does it mean? This 20 or 15 or 20 list of fruits is the fruit diversity that we have. That is the variety of the fruit. That we call it as variety of the fruit. If I ask you the flowers, again you may list out 15, 20, 25 flowering plants. What does it mean? Starting from jasmine, hibiscus, rose, chrysanthemum, whatever the things that you know. Again, these 20, 25 flowers are nothing but the diversity of the flowers that you know. That is more precisely, it is the variety of the flower. I have also told you one more thing. It is the variety and variability of the living beings. What do you mean by variability? I hope all of you have eaten mangoes in this summer. How many types of mangoes you have eaten? Certainly you have not eaten only one variety of mango. You might have eaten the mangoes. Either it may be Alfonso or it may be fiery or it may be in Kannada what you call curry shad. So many things. Even if you have trees, mango trees or jackfruit also. You have eaten only one jackfruit. You call it as jackfruit. But each jackfruit tree is different. The flavor, texture of the fruit that you have eaten, the taste, color, that differ. That is what you call variability. To give one more example, in your class, say there are 900 plus students. So when you come to the class, not online, offline class I am talking, how I will be able to identify each one of you? All of you have common characteristics. All of you are having the same morphological features. In spite of that, I can recognize, isn't it? This is Mr. So and so, this is Miss So and so, like that. Why? It is because of the variability. Some of you may be tall, some of you may be short, some of you may be thin, some of you may be fat, some of you may be having straight hair, some of you may be having curly hairs, some of you may be having dark eyes, some of you may be having brown eyes, some may be cat eye. So, different things, skin color, height class, everything matters. Even if you take the twins also, there's a difference. So that you can identify who is who. That means there must be some differences, isn't it? This difference, we call it as variability. So, biodiversity refers to variety and variability of the living being. And the entire life of any given organism totally depends on this biodiversity, isn't it? Because man wants, every organism wants the diversity, not the uniformity. Diversity should be there, no? Suppose for every day morning breakfast, if your mother prepares dosa only, you will eat 2 3 days, and after the fourth day you will say that why you are preparing only dosa, why can't you prepare idli or vada or puri or something? Every I am bored by eating the same dosa because there is no diversity in the food. But it's not happening. When you go for the lunch, you want variety, diversity. You want the variety and diversity. So diversity is a part of our life. Without diversity, we don't enjoy life. Suppose if you get only one type of fruit, you will be bored. So that's why I'm telling diversity, biodiversity is a part of our life. You don't see anywhere the uniformity. Everywhere it is the diversity. Uniformity is only in the uniform when you wear while coming to the college. Actually, uniformity is against the principle of nature. It is the diversity. Now, coming to this biodiversity, there are three levels of biodiversity. Or biodiversity operates at three different levels. One is the at a larger perspective, it is at the ecosystem level. At the moderate level, it is the species diversity, and at the subtle level, it is the genetic diversity. So, there are three levels of biodiversity. What are these three levels? First, let's start from the genetic diversity, the very subtle level, very lowest level. What is this? This is the diversity of genes. How many types of dogs you have seen? Starting from your local dogs to Pomeranian, Rottweilers, or it can be German Shepherd, or it can be Labrador. There are so many. They are all dogs, but still then they differ. I have given here the three photographs. One is the Rottweilers, Beagles, and Chihuahua, shortest, smallest dogs. You agree all of them are dogs, but when you look at them, there's a lot of difference. Still, you can identify them as dogs, but the differences are also alarming. Why it's so? Why these Rottweilers are big, Beagles are small, drooping ears, whereas the Chihuahuas are very small, short leg but erect ears? If I ask you, say that it is because of their genes. Certainly, you are right. It is because of the genes. That means the genes, at least some of the genes present in the Rottweilers are not found in the Beagle, and the same genes are not found in the Chihuahua. That means even a group or dogs have lot of diversity with respect to their genes, and these genes are different in each group of dogs or type of dogs. That is what we call genetic diversity or diversity of genes. Not only in dogs, everywhere. All of us eat rice. How many varieties of rice we eat? For your information, in our Uttara Kannada district itself, there are more than 1,800 varieties of rice. Many of them are not cultivated now. Each rice has its own quality, its own aroma, its own texture, its own size, its own shape, its own color also. But all of them are rice. What is the why there is so much difference? It is because of their genes. This diversity or variety or the differences in the genes contribute to the genetic diversity. That is what you call genetic diversity. Many times we call it as it's the different varieties. For example, mangoes. All mangoes are same, but genetically they are different, and we call them. This is the Alfonso variety. This is the fiery. This is the um, local variety. Like that we call. What does it mean? They are genetically different and showing genetic diversity. And the second level, slightly at the larger level, it is the diversity of species. diversity of species refers. Take the example of monkeys. Monkey is a large group. At least here you will see two, three types of monkeys. They are different species. Or you take the flowers. There are different flowers. It may be hibiscus, it may be chrysanthemum, it may be uh, rose, or it may be marigold. They are all different flowers. They are undoubtedly they are one. They are flowers, but they are different species because hibiscus plant is different from the dahlia plant or rose plant. So this is what we call diversity of species. If I ask you to list out wildlife, you will say tiger, lion, cat, tiger, lion, panther, or it can be antlers or guar, elephant. So many endless list you will give. What does it mean? Each one is a different species. Tiger is a separate species, lion is another separate species, human beings are separate species. So whatever the species altogether contribute to the diversity of the species. And that is known as species diversity. For example, monkeys, dragonflies, meadow beauties, all are different species. That is nothing but the species diversity. Then at the very larger level, and even in the larger perspective, if I have to say, the diversity of or ecosystem level. What do you mean by ecosystem? Probably already Dr. Bhatt must have told you. In Kannada, what you call Jiva Parisara Vyavasthe. Forest is an ecosystem. Grassland is another ecosystem. Pond is separate ecosystem. Lake is another different ecosystem. An ecosystem will have number of species, and in within a species there may be genetic diversity. Even if you take the forest, again there are diversity ecosystem. It may be evergreen forest ecosystem. It may be moist deciduous ecosystem. It may be dry deciduous. It may be savanna, or it can be shola ecosystem. It may be mangrove ecosystem. Different types of ecosystems, they contribute all of them to the e- ecosystem diversity. So biodiversity operates at three levels. At the subtle level, it is the genetic diversity. At the moderate level, it is the species diversity. And at the gross scale, it is the ecosystem diversity. Now, see, this is the grassland, shoal. These are some of the photographs of diversity. So here, again, I have mentioned what it is. I'm not going to this. Now, let's try to understand the magnanimity of this diversity and how they are useful. Before discussing about this richness of the biodiversity, I would like to inform you one thing. Whatever knowledge with respect to biodiversity is very, very minimum till today. It has been said that only as we are able to understand or at least recognize or list only a small part of the biodiversity, maybe 10% of the biodiversity that is existing on this earth. 90% of the biodiversity still it is to be understood or explored. Even if we come to the our Indian perspective, the biodiversity of India, we have 91,212 plus species of animals. It is not the whole list of the animals that we have. Till now, we have documented or listed or inventorized 91,212 plus species. The number of species in India must be much more than this. 45,500 species of plants we have identified. Maybe more than this. Must be. Bacteria and virus together, we have something 850. We know about 14,500 fungi. Altogether, identified is 1.77 million species. But the volume must be much more than this because we have not identified. Even we have not identified fully the ecosystem. Forget about the species. Just I have given you some information. Ecosystem diversity. If you take in India, there are 10 zones, biogeographical zones, and 25 biotic provinces. And if you see this ecosystem biodiversity, it can be mountain ecosystem, desert ecosystem, wetland ecosystem, forest ecosystem, marine ecosystem, mangrove ecosystem, island ecosystem, different types of ecosystem. Even one mountain ecosystem take, there are again varieties. Eastern Himalaya is different from Western Himalaya. Then the Trans Himalaya is different. There also again further divisions and diversity. Let's say diversity of forests. Forest, if you take, I have told you it may be deciduous forest, it may be evergreen forest, it may be alpine forest, it may be shola forest. Different types of forest and different types of forest will have different types of species. Even wetlands, it may be stagnant water, running water, river system, coastal wetlands, tidal mud flats, or it can be shore scene operations, or so many ecosystem, marine ecosystem, if you coral reefs, mangrove ecosystem, estuarine ecosystem, or seagrass and seaweed ecosystem, pelagic and benthic ecosystem, so many ecosystems we can see. Mangrove ecosystems. These are the specialized trees or plants which are found where the river meets the sea in the estuaries. Some types of plants grow where the roots come above the water. That is what you call uh, mangroves. This is another unique. Even we have coral reefs ecosystem, not desert ecosystem, different types of deserts. India, we have 10 biogeographical zones. I'm not going to discuss now. It I will discuss. Total land area of the earth is 510,069,284 square kilometer. Out of that, 26% is covered by forest. Out of the 38.7 or 26% of the forest, 40% of the forest is found in the global forest land in South America, Africa, and South Asia. There's an estimation that total number of species must be 5 million to 100 million on this earth. We don't know. It is an estimation, or even word estimation is not appropriate. It's a guesstimation. But out of this, we know about 1.7 million species so far. Rest of the species are to be explored or yet to be explored. This species distribution on this earth is not uniform. I have in the very beginning told the biodiversity distribution is not uniform on this earth. There is great variation. There are certain locations which are very, very rich in biodiversity. Some are very poor. In between, there are so many locations. Based on the richness of the biodiversity, all over the world, 34 areas are recognized as hotspots of biodiversity. What does it mean? These are the area where you will see maximum diversity. In these 34 recognized hotspots, 44.4% of global plant species and 35.3% of animal species are present. So, because of the richness of the species, they are known as hotspots. In India, we have two locations which are considered as the hotspots of biodiversity. One is the Western Ghats, where we are all living, Western Ghats, and another one is North Indian Northeast forests, especially the forests of Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, all those seven sister states. They are hotspots. You come to Indian perspective. India occupies only 2.5% or 2.47% exactly of the world geographical area and has only 1% of the forest. 2.47% of total world's geographic area and only 1% of the forest. But we have 16.1% of world population. Area is only 2.5%, but the population is 16.1%. Even our cattle population, world's 15.1% of cattle are found in India. If you take India, around 23.5% is under the forest. I have told you, we are occupy only 2.5% of the world geographic area, but India is sharing 12.5% of world's biodiversity. So that's why India is also known as mega biodiversity country. Area wise, it is very small, but the contribution of biodiversity to the world is alarming. It is 12.5. India has 3.9%, almost 4% of the grasslands of the world, 2% of hot deserts, and India is having 1.4 million hectares of wetland ecosystem. All of you know India is the seventh largest country in the world and it is one among the 17 mega biodiversity countries or centers. In the world, there are about 17 mega biodiversity centers, countries. India is one among them. Why? We have 45,000 species of wild plants, 89,000 species of wild animals, and at least 350 species of wild relatives of crops or cultivated plants. What do you mean by wild relatives of cultivated plants or crops? We have relatives, isn't it? All of us have relatives. Like that, our cultivated plants are also having relatives, but they are found in the wild. So that's why they are wild relatives. If I say you may not understand, all of you have seen banana. And many of you may be having banana plant in your homestead garden. This banana tree we plant and harvest banana out of it. You go to a forest. In some forests there are banana trees. In Kannada, what you call kadu bale ಅಥವಾ wild banana. Looks like our own banana plant. That wild banana tree is the wild relative of our cultivated banana. Another example I will give. In the early morning when you go from Kumta to Sirsi or Siddhapur, in the Ghat section you will come across many wild fowls. In Kannada, what you call kadu kodi or wild fowl. Who are they? They are the relatives of our chicks, which we domesticate. They are the wild relatives. All of you know the jasmine. You love many the fragrance of the jasmine. You cultivate it here. But you go forest, there also you will see wild jasmine in Kannada, what you call kadu mallige or something. They are the wild relatives. They are very, very important because all our domesticated plants and animals have come from these wild relatives. These wild relatives are responsible for the origin and succession of all our domesticated plants. So we have almost 320 species of wild relatives. Altogether, we have recorded 1,39,000 species of plants, animals, and microbes. And our estimation is there must be something more than 4 lakh species which are yet to be identified. India is a mega biodiversity country. We have many hotspots of diversity. Even we have some mega centers of endemism and 26 micro centers of endemism. 3 mega centers and 26 micro centers. What is this endemism or endemic organisms? A living being with restricted range, we call it as endemic. What do you mean by restricted range? An animal or plant, if it is found only in a small pocket and the same species not found elsewhere in the world, we call that as the endemic. A good example for endemic species is line-tailed macaques. In ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಸಿಂಗಳಿಕ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತಿರಲ್ಲ. Line-tailed macaques are endemic to Western Ghats, that to southern and central Western Ghats. These line-tailed macaques are not seen anywhere else except this central and southern Western Ghats. They are called as endemic animals of Western Ghats. Like that, there are many such endemic animals, especially among the amphibians. Almost 45% of the frogs and toads we see, they are endemic to Western Ghats. They are not found elsewhere. Only in Western Ghats they are found. They are known as endemic organisms. The living beings, plants or animals with restricted range. This is a small table which will give you the diversity of animals in the world as well as India. Known one. India has 60,000 insects, whereas world has 80,000 recognized. 2,500 species of fishes. The entire world there are 23,000 species. Amphibians we have 190 species. All over the world there are 4,500 species. Mammals we have 872 species in the world. We have 4,231 species. This is the diversity. Even in India, if you come to Karnataka, we have very good, we are very rich in biodiversity because we are in the central western Ghats. It is the home of sandalwood and rosewood. Almost one quarter population of India's elephant is in Karnataka. It supports around 10% of India's bird diversity. 1,600 flowering plants are endemic here. So we have four hotspots, out of which Western Ghats and Eastern Himalaya are exclusively in India. There are two more hotspots which we share with neighboring countries. For example, Indo-Burma region is also considered as a hotspot of biodiversity. Sundaland, which includes Indonesia, Malaysia, of India, especially Nicobar Islands. Together we call it a Sundaland. There is also a hotspot of biodiversity. So total four biodiversity hotspots, out of which Western Ghat and Eastern Himalaya are exclusively in India, and other two hotspots we share that with our neighboring countries. Now the question is why biodiversity is important. For this, I will continue in the next class. Because even if I start, I will not be able to complete. So now tell me, ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಆಯ್ತಾ ಹೇಳಿ
Yes, sir.
ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಆಯ್ತಾ
Yes, sir.
ಎನಿ ಡೌಟ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದು ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತಾ
No, sir.
then